Aloha, welcome to the Lava channel. This is Market Take for Monday, July 17th, 2023. And this is not financial advice, just financial entertainment. First off, I truly want to thank all of you for your incredible support. I mean, really, and the advice. It's just overwhelming. I appreciate you guys so much. I even have a troll follower now and stops by every video I put out and generously gives me a thumb down on every video. And I want to thank him because that gives me motivation to improve. So I want to say seriously, if there is anything helpful or something you would like for me to cover, please leave that in a comment. And if there's anything you like, consider clicking on that like if you would. It really helps me out with the numbers that I've had some generous people trying to donate, and I appreciate you so much. But that like is a true help. So mahalo for that, and let's get to work. Okay, morning trading in Hong Kong is halted due to Typhoon Telemus right off their coast and creating some serious conditions weather there. I think this is one of the very few times they've halted for weather, but this is something that they're watching. Also in the market news, aside from them, their GDP has missed their numbers. So their data is lower than expected, and investors are reacting to the indicator of the weakening economy. But I mean, really, lock down their economy for an extended period of time, and their production has slowed. So go figure. At any rate, easing is expected to kind of counteract this, and although what form has not been determined yet. We're also still watching the Bank of Japan because of their yield curve control policy change as these currency wars are heating up and the whole thing with the BRICS nations. But that's probably a little bit longer term thing, not necessarily for today. Today is expected to be a relatively muted day for the markets because there's not a lot of macro financial news or major earnings for today. The major earnings will come a little later in this week. Also, watching the 10-year yield. That one had a serious drop this morning prior to the market opening. As I'm doing this, we do have a little over an hour 45 minutes before the market starts. The VIX or fear gauge is up slightly, and retail investors are waiting to see which direction this market wants to go. The Manorino Market Risk Indicator, MMRI, is about 234 as I'm doing this. And I'd like to put a word on this. I love this indicator because it incorporates some of the larger elements in the market that are really good indicators. I watch them constantly anyway, and this provides an easily combined format. You know, my friends think I'm nuts, and probably right, but they don't call me during pre-market because they know I have multiple screens running and at least a couple of streams competing for volume, always trying to take in the latest in the news so I can bring this to you. I did this anyway, and now it's just something that I'm able to share now. They ask how I can pay attention to all this at once. I don't know. Could be compulsion or maybe just bad habits. Or I have attention deficit disorder. Who knows? I'm not sure. It is a routine, and I'm happy to be able to share my findings with you. So, on to commodities. Oil, gold, and silver are all slightly down, which is a little odd. They're all slightly down pre market together, but for the most part, we're still flat. We're waiting. The market hasn't opened. I think it's going to be holding its breath in a pause, waiting to see which direction we take. So, in some other news, found this very interesting. Russia has halted its wartime deal to allow Ukraine to ship grain. It's a blow to global food security. If you don't know, Ukraine is huge on their grain production. They are one of the largest producers that feeds Europe. So Europe and as well as exports to other parts of the world, but this could be a very serious issue for them. In other news, along with this, Sweden is joining NATO. NATO kind of took center stage over the weekend. Zelensky was there trying to vie for attention for Ukraine. They denied him for now. In all this East versus West jostling for positions, it's boiling down to trade and currency wars, and it's showing up in NATO versus the BRICS. And in other words, the freak show is just expanding. The World Economic Forum, WEF, is building their military arm, which is NATO. So we'll see what happens with that. Other news, FedNow, the FedNow payment system rolls out soon, the next day or so, and XRP Ripple holders are still hoping that that will be the choice token. We'll see what happens. Time will tell, that's a discussion of its own. The EU is still working on Unicoin, but they're being a little more subtle about their rollout after there was a huge backlash and then kind of all of this other thing going on with CBDCs and privacy issues. So at this moment, cryptocurrency is down. Bitcoin took a hit. It's still holding that 30,000 level, and it needs to hold that. Otherwise, it could go markedly lower for what I believe would be a final buying opportunity sale at these lower levels. Uh, Halving is already being talked about again. If you don't know what the Bitcoin halving is, it's an event where they're basically curtailing the supply of Bitcoin. So we were talking about between NATO, the European Union, and Latin American leaders are also holding a summit. They're kind of trying to patch these things up. This is President Lula from Brazil, and this is Ursula from the European Union. Who knows what they're doing there. I thought the whole thing was the elbow thing. Maybe they're breaking out of that now, finally. We got another thing about the Wagner Group in the news again, but lesser known as the US version of Wagner Group. They are mercenaries. It's been around since the late 90s. It's called Blackwater, if you haven't heard of them yet. Basically, they're independent contractors. They can operate with less scrutiny and oversight restrictions in formal arms of military. I don't know if this is really well enough understood. Uh, Belarus is a key area for them, and the bigger picture is supply routes and production. That's now going along with them, going back on the grain agreement. We'll see what happens. At the very base of it, all wars are bankers' wars, and nobody even really understands other to say uh, Russia invaded Ukraine, but they forget about what it really is. So it's not about freedom. They're willing to take yours if it suits their needs, send you off to war, and draft whatever else it takes. So, on that note, thank you all for being here again. I wish you all green trading day, and I'll have more for you tomorrow morning. Until then, stay free, my friends.